A new dragon named Lorca uses her wheelchair to overcome imposing obstacles. Ord conquers his fear of butter frogs. You may be wondering what the introduction to a Dragon Tales episode has to do with General Tso's chicken. Fair question. Growing up, my favorite place from which to retrieve General Tso's chicken was the hot bar at my local Dragon Buffet. May it rest in peace. But more to the point, ever since Season 1, when we first started taking on takeout, I have known that this day and this dish would be coming to my channel. Much like Ord and his fear of those butter frogs, I had some doubts about my ability to bring you a dish that was both approachable for the home cook and yet honored the flavors and textures that you would expect of General Tso's chicken. After much culinary research, some of which was quite tasty, I believe we have arrived at that place. A dish which calls to mind all of the gooey and crunchy, sweet, spicy, savory, and umami flavor notes you would expect from takeout General Tso's chicken, and yet elevates each of those in kind. Bonus points, you can have it on the table probably faster than your delivery driver can have it at your front door. Double bonus points, you won't have to leave a tip. Though, if you need one, serve it up next to some fried rice, and generally speaking, it is so good. We begin with the marinade for our chicken, and that will start with 2 eggs, so go ahead and get the egg whites separated. We will not need the yolks. I prefer to just do this in my hands, but use whatever TikTok hack you prefer. Let's also discuss the rest of these ingredients briefly. We're going to be using some things that may be a little bit difficult to find, like Chinese cooking wine and dark soy sauce. Can there be substitutions? Yes, of course, and I'll put some notes in the dish guide, but just know, with every substitution, you stray not only further from God, but from the memory of General Tso himself. And finally, the internet. It exists. Use it. Order the stuff, okay? 3 tablespoons of our Chinese cooking wine go in, along with 3 tablespoons of dark soy sauce. This is not the same as regular soy sauce, please note. Go ahead and get that whisked together. And then we're going to add in roughly 1/4 cup of cornstarch, along with just a little sprinkle of some baking soda, about 1/2 teaspoon or so. Go ahead and get that all worked together until it's combined. Next up, we're going to add about 1.5 to 2 pounds of chicken thighs. I'm going to take any excess fat and skin off there, and then just get them cut up into roughly 1-inch sized chunks. But most importantly, just make sure they're as evenly sized as possible so they'll cook at the same time. Get all of your chicken into the marinade, and then make sure it is mixed thoroughly so that every piece is covered. This can marinate for as little as 30 minutes or a few hours in the fridge. Next up, we need to make our sauce, and surprisingly, it only takes about 1/4 cup of sugar. To that, we're going to add some of our dark soy sauce, another 1/4 cup, 1/4 cup of our Chinese cooking wine, about 1/4 cup of chicken stock, about 1 tablespoon, let's make it 2 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, a splash of toasted sesame seed oil, and the juice of about 1/2 of an orange. Once you've got all of that squeezed in, go ahead and stir everything to combine, and we're going to add in about 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and mix that in so that the sauce will be thick. Note, a whisk makes this much easier. Next up, let's prep some of our aromatics. I have here about a 2 to 3 inch piece of ginger that I'm just going to cut off all the peel and skin off from, and then we're going to go ahead and get that cut up like we usually do. First into planks, then we'll go back through it making little pieces, and eventually I'll probably just give up and, start going through the whole pile all at once. Get that into a bowl. Gonna chop up about 6 to 8 cloves of garlic. We're gonna use both of these for our fried rice and our chicken, so trying to make things easy. Next up, cut up some green onions, and man, I could just watch that all day. I'm doing a whole bunch here. Go ahead and set that aside. And now we need to talk about our chili de arbol. These are pretty spicy, so use as little or as much as you want, but go ahead and get those cut up and into a bowl as well. And finally, we need to make our dredge for the chicken. So that's about 3/4 cup of flour and 3/4 cup of cornstarch, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a pinch of salt. That's the only salt in this entire dish. There's plenty of it in all the other ingredients. When you're ready to cook your chicken, move them into the dredge. Be as messy as possible, like I am here. Hi, Anubis. And we're going to go ahead and toss them around in that dredge with a fork and eventually probably just give up and use your hands. It's okay if some of that extra marinade gets in there because it makes the flour and cornstarch mixture really nice and chunky so that it gets extra crispy when you fry it, which is what we're about to do now. Into a pan or a pot of 375-degree oil, and you're just going to fry those, kind of moving them around with a spatula or a spider so they don't stick together for about 4 to 6 minutes until they're golden brown on the outside and cook through on the inside. Once they're cooked through, go ahead and get them out onto a wire rack or paper towel lined baking tray to rest, and it's time to make our sauce. In a skillet over medium-high heat, add your ginger and garlic, reserving some for our fried rice. Stir that around for about a minute until it's just fragrant. Next, if you're using them, add in your chilies, and then it's time to add in our sauce. Now, because this has cornstarch in it, it's going to thicken up very quickly as soon as it's warm, so once it does, add your chicken, and like the total badass that you are, flip it around in the pan. Now, you may realize this is not the most efficient way of doing this, and since you're not going to be showing off for a camera, just put it all into a bowl with your sauce, chicken, and the scallions. Get that mixed together. Now, we need to serve this with something, and as I suggested, fried rice is the best place to start. So, into a wok, go ahead and get a tablespoon of butter along with 2 eggs and get those scrambled up quickly. And just as soon as they've just set and cooked, go ahead and get them out. Return the pan to the heat, add in about a tablespoon or so of garlic and ginger that we already cut up from before, 1 carrot, and half of 1 onion, both of which were diced. Add in your other tablespoon of butter and saute those for around 4 to 5 minutes until the onion is just softening. Next up, add in 2 cups of cooked rice. That was 2 cups before it was cooked. And working diligently, go ahead and break that rice up, trying to free all the little grains so that it can take on our additional flavor components, which will be about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of regular old soy sauce. Just spritz that down in there, along with a teaspoon, let's make it 2, of oyster sauce. Finally, we're going to add in some frozen peas, about 1/3 to 1/2 cup, and a good handful of green onions. Once all that's in, just stir it to combine. Finally, all we have to do is add our egg back in, mix it in thoroughly, and I do believe we are ready to plate this up. Well, I am extremely excited to see how this came out, so let's give it a try, shall we? I'm going to check out this fried rice first. It's like exactly what you get takeout, but I mean, it honestly is even better because the veggies are all fresh. That butter, even though we only use 2 tablespoons, really adds a nice richness to the rice. The egg is nice, just not overcooked and dry. It's really very flavorful. Now, you can put anything you want in this: cabbage, mushrooms. If you're not a fan of peas or carrots, leave it out. It's basically just free for all for veggie day. Now, time for the chicken. Even though it's been almost 20 minutes since I finished cooking it because I was taking pictures and setting everything up, it's still got a nice little crispy bite to it. That sauce is the absolute perfect balance of sweet, spicy, savory, umami, salty. It really just hits on every single note. I know it may look like a little more work than picking up the phone and calling your local delivery place, but sometimes a little more work pays off. There's nothing so about this General So. I hope you'll make it and let me know what you think. And I guess I'll see you next week on Dishing Out. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications for future videos. And in the meantime, go make something delicious.